Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if this is the first video of mine you're seeing, welcome. I'm so happy you found me. My name's Hannah and I make a lot of commentary content about ridiculous things I see on the internet. And one of those series is this one, MLM Horror Stories. That's kind of a branch off of my MLM Top Fails series where we discuss and debunk and react to different things that people in multi-level marketing companies will post on social media. After I started posting those videos, people started sending me in their own crazy things that they've experienced, and through that, the MLM Horror Stories series was born. And at this point, we're up to 90 videos, which is shocking to me. Every time I upload another one of these videos, I'm like, how are we still here? How are we still doing this? And the answer is you, viewer submissions, viewer emails. I'm really not kidding. Every time I upload one of these videos featuring 4, 5, 6 stories, I get like 30 more in my inbox, which is a fantastic problem to have. I have so much content in there for so many more MLM Horror Stories videos. And I'll link a playlist here for you if you want to go back and watch the previous 89 horror story videos we've got. So without further ado, I have 6 stories for you today, and let's get right into it. This story says, "Hi Hannah, I love your videos and I feel like I have a few too many stories to share regarding MLMs. I know a lot of people deeply involved in doTERRA, so they will get the spotlight in this email with a few mini stories. I lived in Utah for 5 years and really came to know and hate MLMs. When we would drive on the freeway and see the big warehouses, we would play the game, is it an MLM or not? That's how common they are. Unique, doTERRA, Young Living, New Skin, Morinda, Q Sciences, I've seen them all. If you're really into anti-MLM content, Utah is fascinating. My husband worked as an actual employee of doTERRA for about 3 years. He took calls from distributors who had issues with payments or whatever other problems they had, and then later he worked in IT. Call center jobs are definitely not great, but they would have regular town hall meetings with the employees and ask what they could do to be better as a company. The number one issue brought up time and time again was the low pay. You'll never guess what they did in response. Nothing. So they aren't even paying their actual employees a livable wage either. They do give them lots of free products though, with an eye-rolling emoji. Okay, yeah, so your husband is not a part of the MLM. He works on the corporate side of it. It sounds like he's probably a W-2 employee, not a 1099 employee, meaning he's an actual employee of the company, not one of their salespeople. But that's pretty insightful to know that, like, yeah, people participating in the compensation plan don't get paid that much, but neither do the corporate employees either. It's not terribly surprising, but I am sorry that your husband was one of those underpaid employees of the company. Not that I really wanted to be an employee of doTERRA, but when I graduated with a degree in microbiology and was job hunting, I found a listing for the Quality Assurance Lab at doTERRA. I just had to apply. I wanted to see for myself what kinds of testing they do and how they determine purity. I have a lot of experience in labs, so I felt like I stood a pretty good chance for an interview, but sadly, I never heard back from them. I forgot about it until I got a job elsewhere, and while talking with one of my coworkers, he mentioned that he also applied at doTERRA's Quality Assurance Lab. He said that he didn't have any lab experience, but somehow he got an interview, which was a pleasant surprise for him. So they called the guy who has no experience for an interview, but they didn't call you, the one who just graduated with a degree in microbiology and actually has experience in this field. Red flags a million times. Unfortunately, he said that the whole interview process was pretty weird and he decided by the end of the interview that he wouldn't take the job. His biggest red flag was that they all but asked if he would be okay falsifying lab results and signing that their products were, quote, certified pure therapeutic grade, which is literally a term only used by doTERRA and was also invented by doTERRA. So yeah, of course their own products would meet their own standard. Okay, little note for me here for legal purposes. This is a story that has been written to me. It is alleged to me. This video is for entertainment purposes only in sharing this information. I have no way to prove that this actually did happen in doTERRA's labs. Okay, got all that out of the way. We suspect that they want people with degrees in science so that they can say they have actual trained scientists certifying their products as pure and effective. I'm sad I couldn't experience it firsthand, but at least it gave me a little insight. So I did look up this term, and this is a term trademarked by doTERRA, and the term is CPTG, Certified Pure Tested Grade. And their website says the CPTG process subjects every batch of essential oils to rigorous examination and third-party testing to guarantee transparency, certifying that there are no added fillers, synthetic ingredients, or harmful contaminants. But again, as you're kind of alluding to, this term doesn't really mean anything when it's trademarked by the company. Nobody else uses this term. It's just kind of made up, essentially. And it also doesn't mean anything if supposedly, allegedly, allegedly they may be asking their scientists to falsify those results. So like, what's the point? Other than to create this illusion that they have the best, safest, purest oils on the market, and that's why you should choose doTERRA over Young Living, presumably, right? And then your last story says, my husband and I are friends with a family that is very high up in the doTERRA ranks. They're nice people, and I really think they believe in the products, but I've seen firsthand that they are totally scamming the system. Okay, again, another legal disclaimer, this is alleged, right? We went over to their house once, and there were 2 grocery-sized bags full of oils and products. They had receipts on them for a name that I didn't recognize, but the address was the house we were at. The total cost of the 2 bags was close to $6,000. When I asked about whose product it was, I was informed by my friend that it was his mom's. I was so confused, but then he explained that that was how they made sure to hit whatever amount they needed to hit their rank that month and to get their bonus, which I assume was more than $6,000. They have accounts for all of their kids, for their grandkids, and even their dead dog. My husband said that you do need a social security number to make an account, so who knows how some of those accounts were made, but my husband is also pretty confident that doTERRA knows that all of their higher-ups do that, and they choose to turn a blind eye to it. His mom also set up a website for wholesale purchases, which she uses to sort the sales into the needed imaginary person's downline. That's how she makes sure that she and her kids that are not involved in the business hit their ranks. This is against doTERRA's policies, but again, they turn a blind eye as long as the money is coming in. I could go on and on. I've been to many doTERRA employee events and have been surrounded by people in MLMs. It's hard being around people that are so successful in MLMs because they're either knowingly taking advantage of people and care more about lining their own pockets or are just delusional. Either way, they will really try to convince you that their life is perfect in every way, even if it's all built on dishonesty. It's baffling. Thanks for all you do. So happy to see your channel continuing to grow. It really is baffling. And I agree with what you said about when you start to get to these upper ranks, the tippy top people at the top of the pyramid, there's no way that they don't know what they're doing, right? I do make a point to say pretty often that people who join MLMs are victims of the scheme, and they might not fully understand how the compensation plan works, and they get into it with honest and innocent intentions. But I think we can all agree that when you start looking at these top people who are making so much money and falsifying information allegedly, and creating fake accounts, and strategically placing orders under certain fake people to meet their ranks and to meet their requirements, I mean, it's pretty clear to see how those people are more perpetrators than they are victims. They are the ones victimizing people. They are the ones benefiting from the scheme. This would not be the first time I've heard about this kind of dynamic happening in an MLM company. doTERRA is not the only one. And what it all boils down to is it's just sad that people feel like they have to lie and cheat the system in order to make money. I imagine that it would kind of be hard to sleep at night knowing how many people you've hurt and how much shady stuff you've had to do to get to your position, but the money, I'm sure, sweetens the deal in some aspect. It's just so sad. And I'm very appreciative for your email and for you kind of alleging these things to us and giving us something to think about what's going on behind the curtains of MLMs in multiple aspects, both the MLM side and the corporate side. So thank you so much. This story says, "Hi Hannah, I'm sorry for the length of this story, but as you'll soon discover, this may be up there with one of the most unhinged horror stories you've shared to date. Trust me, it's juicy, very sad, but very juicy. I discovered your channel about 6 months ago, and I've been itching to send you this horror story ever since I found you. But I've waited for the court appearance to be over so as not to leave you all on a cliffhanger. I've changed the names in this horror story to protect the identity of the people involved, but that might be a little pointless as the court case is in the public domain. I hope you have your popcorn ready." I do. You've hooked me. Let's do this. This is a story from across the pond in the UK regarding my ex-best friend of 19 years and how she ended up in court after becoming an unhinged Monate hun. My ex-best friend, who I'm calling Becky, got involved in Monate after she lost her job at the start of 2023. She was a single mom and had no savings to fall back on. She was having to use food banks and couldn't pay her most basic bills while she waited for universal credit or state benefits to start. Becky was pitched Monate by another girl we went to school with but hadn't seen for years after Becky posted on Facebook that she had lost her job. Becky told me about the opportunity offer, and despite my best efforts to discourage her from joining, she joined anyway. She borrowed the money from her parents under the premise that it was to pay her water and council tax bill that month. I didn't know a lot about MLMs at that time, but I knew enough to know barely anyone makes any money from them, and I'd grown up being told if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. I told her when she joined that I didn't want anything to do with the business, so it was fruitless to pitch it to me, and in her defense, she never did. Fast Fast forward about 8 weeks and she was really struggling to make any money, so she started babysitting on the side on the days that her younger daughter went to stay with her dad. It was during one of these babysitting jobs when working for a woman that I'm calling Lisa that she stole Lisa's debit card information while she was out to dinner with her husband. Not only did she order 300 pounds worth of product using Lisa's card and had it shipped to her mother's home, she signed Lisa up to become a Mon 8 hun without Lisa's consent. Becky used a second email address that she had created to avoid the real Lisa getting marketing and billing emails through. She made 2 further, much smaller transactions using Lisa's debit card information that she had written down before Lisa had discovered any money had left her account that she knew nothing about. A very long story cut short, Lisa noticed the transaction and contacted her bank, who referred it to their fraud department. And eventually the police, who then contacted Mon 8, were able to discover where the products had been sent, and everything quickly unraveled. Under pressure from police questioning, Becky admitted full responsibility to everything she had done. She eventually went to court last month and was given an 18-month suspended sentence for conspiracy to commit fraud, a reduced sentence because it was a first offense, and had ordered to undertake 120 hours of community service. She has since moved back in with her parents. Becky contacted me after her sentence ruling, asking to meet with me to tell me everything that had happened, which I did last week. I didn't know the full details until that point because there had been no full court case, as she had admitted guilt when she was initially arrested. After meeting her last week, I asked her not to contact me again as I no longer trust her, which is incredibly sad after so many years of best friendship. I just can't see past that level of deception despite knowing it came from desperation. Thank you for taking the time to read this totally unhinged story. I hope you, your beautiful family, and the cats are all doing well. I hope your videos continue to spread the word about how these business opportunities can tear apart and completely ruin people's lives and friendships. I think unhinged is a very appropriate word for this story. She committed a crime in the name of making money with an MLM company, and that's really troubling. Mon 8 is not worth it. It's just not. And what does this whole situation say about what people feel pushed to do to see success, to make money in the MLM companies? People don't do this kind of thing unless they're under pressure and they're feeling really desperate and like it's the only option. So if you're in these really severe financial straits and you're trying to get your life back on track and you're trying to do anything you can to make money, but these Mon 8 hair care products are impossible to sell and nobody wants them because nobody likes them and everybody knows they're coming from a pyramid scheme like MLM company, then what do you do? How do you make money? How do you make a commission? If you're not making those sales organically through honest means, then you might feel pushed to commit a crime, to commit fraud, to steal somebody's credit card information or debit card information, you said. That's just wacky, and it makes me sad. It makes me sad that your friend felt like that was her only solution. And the themes in your story piggyback really nicely off the story we just read about people at the top of doTERRA engaging in fraudulent activities to further themselves in the company and to make money. If there's one thing I have to say about all of this, it's that it's not worth it. It's just not. And it saddens me that some people do feel like it is worth it, or they don't see an alternative route and that this is the only thing they have to do. And I think it speaks to how poor the business opportunity really is. If people can't find success or climb in the ranks or make money organically through true and honest and ethical means, then that kind of means that the whole compensation plan is scammy. If it was a legitimate business opportunity or a legitimate job, people would not feel the need to do this kind of thing. All the more evidence that MLM companies are scams, in my opinion. This one says, "Hi Hannah, I hope this email finds you and your family well. My name is Caroline, or maybe it's Carolyn, I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. No need to keep me anonymous, and I've been enjoying your anti-MLM content for a while now, and your MLM horror stories serve as great background sounds while I'm working. After listening to almost all of your horror stories, I thought I would share my own encounter with an MLM hun. It's pretty short and relatively minor compared to some of the horror stories I've heard on your channel, but I hope you and your viewers find it entertaining nonetheless. A few years back, I went to the drive-thru at CVS to pick up my birth control prescription. The pharmacy tech at the window helping me complimented me on my makeup repeatedly throughout our interaction of me picking up and paying for my medication. I appreciated the compliments on my makeup and thought that she was just a friendly stranger paying me a sincere compliment and asking about the products I used and liked. As I soon found out, that was not the case. She comes back with my prescription and before she hands it over to me says, "I think you'd be really good at what I do. Let me know if you're interested in a new business opportunity." And she hands me my packet of medication, and stapled to the outside of the meds along with my receipt is her her business card for her Lime Life business. I'd never heard of the company and I was only vaguely familiar with MLMs at the time, but a quick Google search and a conversation with my sister prompted me to quickly toss the business card in the trash and eliminate the entire interaction from my mind. Until later that evening when I logged into Facebook and saw that I had a new friend request from who else but the CVS hun. I was totally surprised by the unwelcome friend request and even more confused about how she found me on social media in the first place. And then it hit me. She had access through her job at the pharmacy to all of my personal details, including my full name, address, birthday, and phone number, and that she had used her position in healthcare to further her gross MLM endeavors. She got my name off my prescription to find me on Facebook in the name of crappy MLM cosmetics, breaking several CVS policies and violating HIPAA along the way. This is crazy. I've had many examples of people in healthcare exploiting that position to sell an MLM product, but this is the first time that it's just like the pharmacy tech at the window, just jotting down people's names as they come in with the intention of pitching them her Lime Life business and then hunting them down on Facebook later. I would say that's definitely an abuse of power, having all these people's personal information and then using it for your own personal financial gain. Wow, that's the first time I've heard of that. And who knows how many other people she's done this to. She was using her employment to place unsuspecting people in awkward and unnecessary positions. It greatly upsets me that she did this to me and others, especially as she was employed in healthcare and would have access to people's private health and medical information that could make many feel exposed and vulnerable at the hands of the hun. I have a pretty strong sense of justice and fairness, and once I believe someone or something is wrong, I won't let it go or leave it be until it's resolved. So the next day, I called the pharmacy and told the pharmacist and the CVS manager what happened. I had barely finished telling the pharmacist about the interactions when he said he knew exactly who it was without me having to even give her name yet. I explained that I didn't want her to lose her job, but that this was highly inappropriate and a huge violation. The pharmacist was floored and very upset and apologetic about the hun's behavior, and assured me that it would absolutely be dealt with and that she may not be able to keep her job as a pharmacy tech due to violating the CVS company policy and HIPAA. I truly did not want her to lose her main source of income and employment over what I deem a relatively minor transgression, but I did think it was important that the pharmacy knew about it and put a stop to it swiftly. I reiterated this to the store manager and the pharmacist, and they told me that they would be in touch the next week with an update for me. About 3 minutes after I hung up the phone with CVS, the hun's friend request had been removed from my inbox, but not before I took a screenshot just in case. They did call me the next week and told me that she had received a write-up and a lengthy scolding by the pharmacist and store manager. I did opt to have my prescriptions moved to a neighboring CVS so that I wouldn't risk ever running into her again. It's a pretty short story, luckily, but it just goes to show that huns lurk everywhere and will go to weird and extreme measures to sell or recruit unsuspecting people. Thank you for all you do. Sending all my best to you and your family, Zeke and Cooper included. Thank you. Both of them are over here napping on the bed. I wonder if they'll come and make an appearance later. It is their nap time though. I'm very happy they're just chilling over there and not like causing a ruckus like they usually do. But Zeke and Cooper say thank you as well. I really commend you for kind of standing up for what you believe is right and letting the pharmacy know about it. I think that I would have done the same thing, if for no other reason than to just make her coworkers aware that like, hey, this pharmacy tech is doing this to customers. I understand that you didn't want her to lose her job because after all, that's her daytime job. That's her full source of income, assuming that Lime Life is not bringing in a full-time income, and that's likely something she does on the side. So you don't want to take away her full-time job in the name of this Lime Life situation. But in my opinion, I think it was the right thing to do, the ethical thing to do, to bring it to the pharmacy's attention, because no other customers who come to the pharmacy window deserve to also have this happen to them, you know? You knew to throw that business card in the trash and to not take her up on it, but who's to say that she maybe didn't recruit somebody that way? Maybe somebody did join her Lime Life downline and now they're losing tons of money in an MLM scheme. It's a bad scenario all around, and I really respect that you did what you felt was right in the situation, and I'm also very glad to hear that she was reprimanded, but it didn't cost her her job in the end, because that's never what we want, right? We don't want to drive people more into their MLMs, and by cutting off her full-time 9-to-5 job, that would have maybe done that. So I'm glad to hear that she did not lose her pharmacy job. And maybe, just maybe, this will help her rethink her decision to be in Lime Life. Maybe the fact that she received some kind of consequence for her actions communicates to her that this is not okay and this is probably not something you should be doing. And I wonder if in the future that might lead to her leaving Lime Life. We can only hope. This next story says, I have had a few run-ins with MLMs in my life, but my most recent was the most horrific. I'm a physician, and I would appreciate you keeping me anonymous because of my profession. A little bit of backstory, I had a college friend that ended up selling Mary Kay while I was in med school. She reached out to check in on me and then eventually asked me to host a party. I felt for her, and she said that she just needed to practice and that I shouldn't feel pressured to buy anything. I was also not as aware as I am now about MLMs. I did have a few friends over and let her practice her pitch. I think she maybe made a sale or two. And one of her tips was that we should always use our ring finger to apply eye cream because, quote, it's the only finger without a muscle, therefore making it weaker and gentler than all of your other fingers. What? This made me giggle at the time since it's not true, and she was speaking to a room of people that had just spent hours in an anatomy lab dissecting the hand and forearm. Yeah, know your audience, lady. There's no muscles in your ring finger. If there's no muscles, you couldn't move it, right? Am I dumb? That's the way that works, and it's moving, so I think there's some muscles in there. Maybe just that it's like not the most coordinated finger. What am I doing? Just sitting here playing with my fingers. Yeah, like I could see like your pointer fingers are pretty strong. Your ring fingers, it does take a lot more like coordination to use those. So like to pat on eye cream, maybe? I don't know. What am I doing? We're getting off track. Let's get back on track. 8 years later, I have this patient, let's call her Sally. Every time she came into my office, she would bring me a little sachet with her business card and some sort of sample. It was harmless and she was never pushy. These sachets were always so foul smelling of some crazy perfume that I always had to immediately throw them away to avoid my whole office smelling like the disgusting perfume. Several visits later, she commented on my skin and asked what products I used. I had forgotten that she was a Mary Kay woman. I was pregnant at the time and feeling very self-conscious about my skin due to some hormonal breakouts. I told her a couple of products I liked, and she of course said that she had some suggestions since she was a quote beauty consultant. Then I remembered who she was. During this discussion, she threw in a free tip to always use my ring finger to apply eye cream, as this is the only finger without an attached muscle. Clearly something they've been teaching for at least 3 years. Anyway, she told me about a free virtual facial she was doing for clients and gave me her card yet again. Then she asked for my number. She insisted that she just needed to send me the link to this free skin evaluation questionnaire or something. In a moment of weakness, I gave her my number and immediately regretted it the second I walked out the door. Sally said that she would be dropping off the products for the facial, which she did promptly a few days later. I was hoping she would forget about having my number and scheduling this facial, but she reached out with several texts and phone calls, and I was stalling at first. Told her it was hard to find time, busy with work, my toddler, etc. I hoped that she would get the hint, and she of course persisted. Eventually, I very directly told her I was not interested in the products, and I let her know that I would leave them at the front desk so that she could pick them up. She continued with the messages and offering to bring me samples of other things like makeup. I started to just ignore her messages and calls. About 2 months and dozens of attempted contacts later, she shows up in my office for an appointment. The medical portion of the visit was only about 5 minutes. She had a very minor complaint, something that most people wouldn't even come to a physician for, and of course, she again starts talking about her products, I'm a beauty consultant, etc. This made me think, did this woman pay her copay to get in front of me and pitch me again on these products? Not to mention she was acting like we hadn't already discussed her business several times. She went as far as suggesting that I have a large network of people given my patient panel and that I could use that to make some money. I had to get up and leave the room in the middle of her insisting that I try this and that and risk my medical license trying to sell patients cosmetics. I do really feel bad about how desperate she must have been to behave this way. I ended up discussing with my supervisor and had to eventually fire her as a patient due to continuing phone calls and texts despite several conversations, verbal and written warnings, etc. This whole situation was incredibly awkward and a lesson learned. I'm much more clear with my boundaries from the start now. Thanks for reading and love your content. I had no idea there were still so many MLMs out there. I really thought Mary Kay was one of the last in existence. Now I see them everywhere. Glad to be more aware thanks to your content. Yeah, I think when we think of MLMs, we think Mary Kay, Amway, Avon, Pampered Chef, the OG MLMs, right? But they continually evolve. New companies are popping up all the time and just taking on slightly different facades to make them a little bit more confusing as to what they are. So I'm glad to hear that these videos can serve as kind of a PSA, even just saying the names of the companies, even if you don't know much about them, at least having kind of a mental list of all these different names that you recognize as being MLMs can be helpful. And this story is a very nice complement to the last story we read about a pharmacy tech pitching her products in that professional setting. In a sense, that's what this Mary Kay rep was kind of advising you do. Look at how many patients you see, look at how many people you come in contact with on a daily basis. You have this built-in clientele already. You can exploit that for more money by selling Mary Kay makeup. I'm disturbed with how common this is becoming. I remember the first few stories I read about this, or the first few things I saw on social media about doctors pitching MLMs. It was deeply concerning. Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Why is this happening? How is this happening? Like, I thought they were anomalies. At this point, it's not an anomaly, it's an epidemic. And good for you for shooting that down and for, I guess, firing her as a patient and being like, you crossed a boundary. I'm not taking you up on that offer, and you can go take your business elsewhere, basically. I have a lot of respect for you doing that because we've seen evidence of other healthcare professionals who don't take that route. They do exploit their patients. They do see them as dollar signs. They do pitch and sell them products in a completely inappropriate setting. And we've seen how damaging that can be in multiple different ways. So good for you for setting that boundary and for sticking to it. Thanks for writing in your story. This one says, hello Hannah, I've been watching your channel for quite a while and I'm an ex-It Works consultant. While I've had plenty of interactions with MLMs, I wouldn't classify them as horror stories, mainly just icky encounters and embarrassment from my 4-month stint trying to sell Skinny Brew coffee. I'm going to be censoring and cutting out some details of this story due to the nature of my job, and I ask that you please keep me anonymous. I'm a 911 dispatcher, and while watching your videos, I realized that I've had many more encounters with MLMs than I ever realized. This story in particular focuses on door-to-door book salesmen. I cannot verify the company, but by all the details, I suspect that it's Southwestern Advantage. Yes, we've talked about Southwestern Advantage in a few horror story videos before, and this is a company that recruits typically young people, typically people that are in college or looking for a summer job, to go out into a designated area and do door-to-door sales for books, particularly kids' educational books. It's like an educational system or a program, and they have programs all the way from preschool through 12th grade, and that is the product that they're selling. It's really not a company that we talk about a lot, but the stories from this company stick in your mind forever. I've had people write in their stories about their experience being in the Southwestern Advantage program, and the things they will report are truly, truly alarming. I'll try and find a couple of those videos and link them in the description box below. I think there's probably been 3 or 4 different videos where we've talked about this company before, but I'm interested to see how this pertains to 911 calls. Many years ago, when I started my career in 911, I received a series of calls about, quote, suspicious individuals during the summer. These people were described as younger and were going door to door asking creepy questions about if the homeowner had children or if anyone in the neighborhood had children. Okay, yeah, definitely Southwestern Advantage, I think. Asking if there's kids in the home during the summer, typically young salespeople, that's like totally Southwestern Advantage. Needless to say, it made many people uncomfortable and the police were sent out. Upon investigation, the officers determined that these were door-to-door book salesmen with odd selling tactics. The officers suggested that they tweak the way they approach people in the future to avoid conflict, and they put out information to the public to explain the situation. Okay, we talked about this in a video once. I'm pretty sure this was in an MLM Top Fails video. Again, I'll find it, I'll link it below, where there was a series of weird Facebook posts from different police stations, essentially putting out like a PSA to the community of like, here's so-and-so from Southwestern Advantage. They're gonna be in our local community going door to door, so don't be freaked out. Don't call us about them. We know that they're out there. So this is kind of the other side of it, like the 911 police perspective. That's really, really cool and interesting. As I said before, I can't confirm that these people were from Southwestern Advantage, and I have limited the details, but the calls had so many similarities to their business structure that I felt very confident about them being connected. This was years ago, and I'd forgotten about it until a video of yours jogged my memory. While it may not be a true horror story, I'm stunned at the lack of concern for safety and that they felt that asking about kids is a way to get sales. I live in an area of the country where almost everyone I know owns a firearm, and I'm shocked that we have not had more conflicts over such things. You have spoken about it before, but I felt that this is exactly why some police departments post about salespeople on their social media, giving personal info such as names and vehicles. It's a way to make residents feel safer because law enforcement is aware of what's going on in the community and keeping them informed. Thank you for your time, and I hope you and your family are doing well. Yes, exactly. I should have just kept reading your story instead of interjecting early, but you feel confident it's Southwestern Advantage. I feel confident about that as well. And it's an interesting perspective from the 911 operator side of it, because when you don't know much about the company or its operations or how these people are encouraged to sell to you, their sales tactics that they're trained on, it does feel really creepy and invasive, like, hey, are there any kids in this house? Obviously, their purpose in asking that question is because they're selling educational systems for kids, but yeah, there's some more tactful ways to go about that, and I can see why that would be alarming to the local community, and now I can also understand better why the police would put out these statements about the Southwestern Advantage salespeople. So thank you for providing that perspective. And this story says, "Hi Hannah, I wanted to first let you know how much I love your videos. They've resurfaced so many memories of my mom and her friends' brief endeavors with several MLMs when I was growing up. However, this story is much more recent and I honestly love telling it simply due to how chaotic it is. A lot of stories on your channel can be heavy, so hopefully this one can lighten the mood. Please keep me anonymous. During 1 year of college, I was lucky enough to live across the hall from someone who quickly became my best friend. On the same floor were many other people our age, and we all got in the habit of having an open door policy where everyone was welcome to hang out. It was always such a fun time chatting with new people, playing games, doing arts and crafts, eating junk food, and overall just having the stereotypical college experience. This one particular Friday night, there was about 10 of us crammed into my friend's tiny bedroom with only the colorful lights on. We happened to all be partaking in some fun substances, I'll say, with the disclaimer that we were all of age, everything was purchased legally, and we were all extremely responsible when consuming. Needless to say, we were pretty relaxed and comfortable. This is when one kid walks in. I'll call him Colin. Colin was known to be such a strange yet extremely entertaining person. No one knew much about him, yet he always had some off-the-cuff, out-of-left-field thing to say that would make the room erupt with laughter. He squeezes himself into the middle of the room and closes the box of cookies we were eating. "Don't you guys miss home-cooked meals?" he asked the room. All of the side conversations stopped, and I don't think anyone answered him. "Do you guys want to see something really cool?" Again, no one replies. I kid you not, Colin reaches into his jacket and pulls out a raw chicken breast. No packaging, no container, and he's just standing there holding it with his bare hand in the middle of my friend's bedroom. I'm sure you can imagine in our non-sober states how shocked and appalled we all were. My friend asked me if she was dreaming while I scrambled off the floor away from the raw meat hand and onto the desk. As if things couldn't get any stranger, he then pulls out scissors and an unsheathed knife from his other pocket. Bingo, my brain used all the power that it had at the time to make the connection to Cutco. Colin briefly started to chop up the chicken breast to show us how easy it was, but seeing as he was juggling everything in his bare hand and did not have any surface to cut on, he was shaky, the knife was slipping all over, and the knife dropped onto the floor, almost landing on someone's hand. That's when one of the guys finally stepped in and told Colin that he had to leave, as he was not making any sense and everyone was freaked out. Luckily, Colin caught on to the fact that we were probably not his intended audience, so he picked up his tools and left. The door shut and everyone silently was left to stare at a single chunk of raw chicken left on the fluffy bedroom rug. After a few seconds, my friend said blankly, "I think I need to burn that rug." And we all spent the next few hours laughing and losing our minds at the absurdity of the whole situation. In all seriousness, I hope Colin wasn't too invested in Cutco. He didn't seem to have the best sales tactics. Typically, we hear about the Cutco demonstration of the pennies and the kitchen scissors and how they're so sharp and powerful that they can cut through metal. I'm not sure that I've heard about somebody trying to cut a raw chicken breast in their bare hand without any kind of cutting board or anything. Do we know for sure that this guy was in Cutco? Did he announce that? Did he say, like, here's my Cutco demonstration? Or, like, did he try and sell anybody the knives? Because now I'm just wondering, like, is this guy okay? Is he all right? What is he doing? Who thinks to do this kind of thing? It's just so bizarre. Was he partaking in some fun substances too? Like, this whole thing seems so unhinged. But you know what? College dorm rooms, college apartments, it's the Wild West out there. Anything can happen, truly. But it makes for a hilarious story nonetheless, so thank you for writing this in. I always appreciate having those shorter, more lighthearted stories. And with that, my friends, it's all the stories I have for you for this MLM Horror Stories video. As always, thank you so much to the writers of these stories for sending them in to me. This series would not exist without you, so I'm always very appreciative for that. And if you have your own MLM horror story you would like to have considered for a video, you can check out the description box below. There's instructions down there on how to send it to me, but it's very easy. You just send me an email. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you in my next one real soon.